I'm with Major Jeff Traver. And Jeff, you're an interesting gentleman, have quite a bit of flying experience in different types of airplanes, and you're involved in radio-controlled F-16s. That's what you're currently flying. And also you fly for
UPS.
UPS, fly the
757.
757. You do that a lot at night, right?
Yeah, we usually fly at night, move the packages at night. Yeah.
What got you interested in aviation, and how did you get to this point right here?
Well, probably as early as I can remember, I was interested in aviation, and my parents tell me that I used to talk about the Gemini series, and I could have only been like 6 or 7. And then it just gradually worked into string-controlled models, and then finally into RCs, and my dad and I were into it, and he supported me quite a bit in aviation because he always wanted to be a pilot, and he just never did it. So father and I got together, and we started flying these, and probably when I was in about 8th grade, we started flying them real heavy, and then all the way through high school, and then as I hit college, we kind of faded a little bit. And then obviously when I went into the Air Force, I didn't fly as much as I used to, and then when I got out of the service and moved back home, I got back into it again. So Dad and I are just now starting to fly again.
So full-scale airplanes, you learned to fly in the Air Force?
Actually, I learned to fly in Wabash, Indiana. I started flying when I was 15 years old, and again, supported my family, my mom and dad. They paid for me to get flying lessons out at Wabash, and as soon as I was 17, I got my private pilot certificate. And then I went down to Indiana State, which my major was flying. So I graduated with a BS degree in aerospace technology, and then I went into the Air Force.
Okay, then what did you train in as far as the Air Force?
In standard flight school, you train in the T-37 and then the T-38. And then after that, I went into the F-16, which is what I got out of UPT, which is undergraduate pilot training. And then from there, I moved on to different bases. I was stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Utah for 3 years, and then did what's called a remote tour in Kunsan, Korea, South Korea, and then also out to Luke Air Force Base as an instructor in the F-16. And then I moved back to Indiana and joined the Indiana Air National Guard.
Okay, so now you're a part-time flyer,
Right.
Fly that F-16, and as a private pilot, I see you guys go once in a while, and wow, do you go.
Yeah.
Can you give us some statistics of the F-16, and you know, what a typical mission, or you fly a lot on Wednesday nights maybe, what you might do?
Well, every mission we go out on is we always build a real scenario. And obviously most of the scenarios now are based around Southwest Asia. And we go out on either what we consider an air-to-ground mission or an air-to-air mission. And a typical air-to-ground mission will be usually about an hour prep, a 2-hour brief with the flight. Normally we're a flight of 4. And then we'll do either a medium altitude or low altitude ingress to a target area. And then we drop usually 25-pound practice bombs. And it puts out a phosphorus charge so we can actually see where they've hit. And then we'll go out of the target area and then kind of like simulate fight our way back out. And then the air-to-air mission would be probably out in just an area called Hilltops where we normally fly, which is just west of Grissom Air Force Base. And we'll be simulating we're defending an airfield, and we have a lane of responsibility, and our force ship will be capping that lane, and if any type of enemy aircraft would come into that lane, it'd be our responsibility to obviously defend the airfield and either shoot them down or strip them off their escort for the bombers. And we usually use obviously our squadron mates as the bad guys, and then we simulate being the good guys and work our tactics. But every mission we do, we always work on tactics. There's no just going out and flying, even though, I mean, people say, oh, you just go out there and thrill around. No, we actually, every mission we have, there is some sort of tactics involved.
It's plain work.
Yeah, it's especially when you go out to an exercise like Red Flag or Maple Flag, you come back and you are drenched in sweat because you really take a lot of pride in what you do, and you want to get into the target and out of the target alive. I know that sounds kind of silly, of course you always would, but you know, you also judge yourself on how well you've done, whether you got into the target and back out alive, and plus brought your flight out with you.
So you're in a situation that you're keeping current, that at any time you could find yourself in the Middle East or anywhere in the world.
Yes, we have a lot of squares, and that makes it kind of tough on, because right now I'm looking at I'm a UPS pilot, I'm also an Air National Guardsman, and I'm also trying to be a husband and a father. So there's 3 main jobs there, and the last one's the most important. But for example, last summer we spent a month and a half in Kuwait doing a Southern Watch. And that's tough, you know, being gone from the family that long. And you're over there and the communications back home aren't the best. So sitting over there in the desert for a month and a half, and we flew missions every day into southern Iraq. And yeah, you know, and they're talking now, we may get called out any moment to go back over there, or maybe into Bosnia. So you don't really know, but you usually get about 2 to 3 weeks notice minimum, so we would have time to spool up. The guys maybe aren't up to speed as much as the other guys would be, but we make sure everybody's good and ready to go before we head anywhere.
Okay, then you change hats, and your full-time job is with UPS.
Yes.
And those flights are at night.
Yeah, most of them are. We also fly during the day. It's it's actually more, it seems more complicated with UPS than it does with the Guard, but overnight packages are flown at night. Now we have what they call second day air and third day air, and those are normally flown in the daytime. And those are by the more senior pilots. Obviously, everything's based on a seniority scale. And the more senior you are, the better your trips are, and they're in the daytime. But being a young guy and a junior guy in the I'm actually a first officer, so I usually do most of my flying at night.
Then you change hats again, and as a hobby, you love these radio-controlled airplanes. Is that right?
Yes, it's a very good hobby, and I think it's an excellent hobby for, well, at least for me, it worked out for a father and son, or a mother and daughter, whatever. I'm hoping someday my daughter wants to fly them. But it's a good hobby, and people think it's expensive. I guess it is a little bit, but you know, I've always tell people for $300 you can get a good airplane, a radio, and a field kit, and you can get started. And you can come out here to the clubs, and there's guys that can fly these things even better than me, and they can teach you how to fly in a heartbeat. But they're really entertaining. And
this is a good show. I mean, where else could you see 80 airplanes?
Oh, it's an outstanding show, and there's just some beautiful, beautiful models. And unfortunately, I'm not much of a builder. I guess I don't have the patience. I love to fly, but there are some gentlemen here that can build incredible models.
And these guys can fly, can't they?
Yes, they sure can. And another good thing for young people, if you're interested in aviation, I mean, you start to learn aerodynamics at an early age. And this was a real strong foundation for me to start flying the real airplanes.
This is what started it off for you.
It started right here, and with watching TV and then getting more interested in flying the RCs, and it really did. It started right here for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.